Finally, the age-old question is answered. What the does Scott think of the carrot? Mario power-ups are such a staple of the franchise. Like, literally every single time a new Mario game is released, it's always kind of the big question of like, all right, well, what's the brand new power-up? Most of the time, the power-up is often seen as like the big marketing hook of a new game. You know, the power-up is usually front and center on the box art. Many times they bring like really innovative new aspects to Mario gameplay, and 90% of them are flying based. So this should be interesting. I want to rank as many Mario power-ups as I consider to be Mario power-ups. There are a couple that I left out. You know, most notably, I'm not including things that are related to Yoshi. So Yoshi himself, or even like the fruits that you can eat in Super Mario Galaxy 2, you know, like that gives Yoshi certain power-ups and whatnot. There's also like certain shells you can, you know, eat as Yoshi in Mario World that would give you like certain power-ups. I'm not including all of that stuff, or things that like Mario kind of holds. So for example, something like the drill in Super Mario Galaxy 2, I'm not going to consider that a power-up. Most notably because you already have the drill mushroom in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and that effectively does the exact same thing, so who cares? But there's certain things like the Goomba mask in Mario 3D World. There's also like the propeller box in 3D Land and 3D World, or the coin box. Nah, I'm not considering those power-ups. They kind of fit the vibe of a power-up, but whatever. I want Mario to transform. That's one of my criteria. But then at that point, you might also say like, well, what about the Giga Bell from Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury? That's in a weird ass other league. Like, it's just, it's such a specific, like, that's more of like a cutscene power-up than a traditional Mario power-up. Then there's certain things like the Master Sword, or the Super Mario Bros. 2 mushroom and all of that in Mario Maker 2, or the Mystery Mushroom costume in Mario Maker 1. And I have a couple of Mario Maker power-ups, but, you know, I kind of, like, picked and choose what makes sense to me. Like, I love the Mystery Mushroom in Mario Maker 1, but that feels less like a power-up and more like just an aesthetic costume for Mario Maker, even though there's like a unique attribute with that, how you have the properties of Super Mario, like you can break blocks and all of that, but you're the size of just regular Mario. Like, that's something, but it's also like, I don't know. And the same with like the Mario 2 mushroom in Mario Maker 2. Like, it's just like, yes, you get unique powers, but some of these feel more like they're there to give you like a creative thing to do with a level you're editing. They don't feel the same as like, oh, I got a fire flower. Oh, I got the Master Sword and I turned into fucking Link. So whatever, this might not be like a super definitive list, and it's definitely not going to be a super definitive list based on how I'm ranking these. I'm sure some people would rank these power-ups based on vibes. Like, oh, man, I love my man Mario in a penguin suit. Oh, man, I don't like how he looks with the bubble flower power-up. This. I don't really care about aesthetics that much with my Mario power-ups. Yeah, some look cooler than others, but I'm playing a fucking game for 3-year-olds, man. I don't care how cool Mario looks. But others may rank these power-ups based on just how effective they are, and like, I'm gonna take this on a case-by-case basis. You know, how do these power-ups fit into the games they're primarily in? How fun are they to use? Do they break the game? Sometimes breaking the game can be really fun. Other times, it can ruin the game. So, you know, it's definitely gonna be on a case-by-case basis here. It's gonna be primarily based on, like, how I'm feeling in that moment, and, you know, like, where I think it lies. And you know what? I think what I'm gonna do first is put one power-up in each of these tier lists, so then we have a baseline, okay, what is this tier all about? And I think middle of the road, what belongs in C tier, what's the most average power-up ever? I even consider not even including this, because, like, the super mushroom, that's like base level. Like that's how Mario should look normally. Is the super mushroom much of a power-up? I mean, like, you know, like, I'm always gonna get it. I don't dislike it at all, but it's also like, what is there to say? It's base level, like, you need to get it. All right, so that's C tier. Right above that, I would put the fire flower in B tier. The fire flower is the original power-up. It is the most iconic Mario power-up. But unlike the super mushroom, there are countless times where I will pass it up. I mean, what kind of statement is that? Obviously, like, I'm not gonna pass up a super mushroom, but, like, yeah, with the fire flower, when there's other options in the game, you know, the fire flower has definitely been upstaged. a fair amount of times, but Fire Flower is a good power-up, obviously. Like, you have firepower, you have yet another hit Mario can take in some games, not like Mario 1, don't have that there. But I will definitely say, in many games with flying-based power-ups, I usually will pick those instead of the Fire Flower. Now, that doesn't mean that the Fire Flower is useless compared to the flying power-ups. No, not at all. Like, the Fire Flower does always have some utility in most games that it's in. But I will definitely say, like, it's not an exciting power-up, but it's also like, well, what do you expect? It's the Fire Flower. It's necessary in, like, pretty much every 2D Mario game. But compared to other power-ups, it really only does one thing. It gives you fireballs, and, you know, that's great. But that's why I would put the Super Leaf in A tier. Now, when I say the Super Leaf, I mean the Super Leaf in Mario 3 and in New Super Mario Bros. 2. Because I actually separated the Super Leaf from those games with the Super Leaf in more of the modern games like 3D Land and 3D World, because they're two different power-ups, man. But yeah, this is one of the most beloved power-ups, and for good reason. I mean, you not only have an offensive option here with the Tail Whip, but you can glide, and if you get a running start, you can fly for a short period of time. And yes, I think the Fire Flower is better as an offensive power-up, you know, being able to defeat enemies with projectiles. You know, you have a much shorter range with the Super Leaf, but I mean, you still have a new offensive option with the Super Leaf. And also with the Super Leaf, with your Tail Whip, you can break blocks on the side. You can't do that with a Fire Flower. I mean, yeah, you have a shorter range with the Tail Whip, but you still have range. You still have something to do with that. And it does also have benefits compared to the Fire Flower. So I would say that's A tier. But then what's S tier, for some reason, they keep bringing back the Super Leaf, but they don't bring back the Cape Feather. The Cape Feather is just a better Super Leaf. Now, to be fair, based on my memory, I don't think the Cape Feather, when you spin with that, you know, while you can defeat enemies, I don't think you can break blocks with that. So it may not technically be like, oh, everything the Super Leaf and then some. But at the same time, flying with the Cape Feather is so much more powerful than the Super Leaf. Like, you can just keep going, man. It is like infinite, and you can glide down, you can still attack enemies with it. I would say the Cape Feather is in S tier. But then what's in D tier? Oh boy, it's the Mini Mushroom. The Mini Mushroom is an interesting one, and there's a reason why it's not specifically in F tier, because it does have some practical use. But at the same time, like, man, we're talking power-ups. We ain't going up with this. This is one of the few power-ups where there are a lot of downsides to this. Like, you do get less powerful in many ways. For one, since you're miniature, you pretty much have the attributes of Small Mario, so you die in one hit. And you have a floatier jump, which can be good, but also can be kind of hard to get used to. The Mini Mushroom is only really effective if the level calls for it. So if you see like a tiny pipe that you can only access with a Mini Mushroom, or in something like New Super Mario U, you can actually like run up the walls and stuff with it. So that's something, but it's also like the level design has to call for it. It's not something where I'm like, oh boy, I want the Mini Mushroom. If you hear me say that, I officially give you permission to kink shame me. The Mini Mushroom belongs in D tier. But then what belongs in F? This is like one of the stupidest fucking things I've ever done. Like, it's the Poison Mushroom. What else? I don't even think the Poison Mushroom is considered a power-up. When I looked up all the power-ups on Mario Wiki, it is not there because it is not a power-up. It is just an obstacle. First appeared in the original Super Mario Bros. 2, and in the original Famicom version, like, it is very similar looking to a regular mushroom. And yeah, its whole shtick is just to kill you. I mean, that's quirky. I kind of like that it's there. And I also like how when it came back in Super Mario 3D Land, it actually follows you. So I think that's kind of a unique thing. And they brought it back in that game in the latter half, in the special world. So when the game is meant to get like really hard, I mean, I kind of like that. And I like the Poison Mushroom being there. It definitely brings up an interesting dynamic between the player and the question mark block, where like, you know, you always consider like, oh, I'm just gonna hit this because I'm gonna get something good. But like, oh, well, no, yeah, this sucks. It might be more interesting if the item box was like randomized. Like, there's like a 0.1% chance in those harder levels in 3D Land that, oh, like, you might get a Poison Mushroom or something every now and then when you hit an item box. But no, like, the Poison Mushroom is always going to be in the same item box every single time. So if you know where it is, it doesn't really matter. But the first time you're playing, it's just like, oh, yeah. So I like the Poison Mushroom being there, but it's also like, you know, like, where the hell else is it going to go? But there we go. We have a baseline for which tier goes with which power-up, I would say. You know, C tier, I would say, is just like pretty unremarkable. There's utility with this power-up, but it's also like, I'm not really going that crazy for them. D tier power-ups, I would say, are more of a pain than anything, but it's also like, you know, they do have a purpose in some regards. F tier is stupid. B tier is good. It's a good power-up. I like this power-up, but A tier is like, oh man, I really like this power-up. Like, this is like, oh man, I'll pick this so many times. I'm so excited when I get it. And then S tier is borderline broken, but still just like a really damn good, like some of my favorite power-ups in the whole series. Like, I'm always gonna pick these. So what do we want next? Well, I think let's go with another flower in B tier. I think the ice flower stands right next to the fire flower. I love these things next to each other, man. I love how in something like New Super Mario Bros. Wii or U, when you have the option between a fire and ice flower, I love that, like, it genuinely makes me think. I honestly feel like they're perfectly balanced because the fire flower works as the fire flower always does. You know, you can throw fireballs and it just kills the enemy right then and there. The ice flower is more elaborate to use. The fact that you throw ice balls and then the enemy freezes and they're in like this giant cube of ice, and then you can pick up the ice cube and then throw it and then it flies all around, and you can take care of a bunch of enemies that way. And the ice flower takes care of enemies like dry bones, where the fire flower doesn't do anything to them. But because the ice flower is more complicated in that way, like it definitely makes me think, you know, there are certain levels in Mario Wii and Mario U where you're on a platform where it can only have so many things on the platform or else the platform stops moving. And I really like that, you know, you gotta think, what do you want? Because the fire flower, you can just pick off the enemies right there, but the ice flower, you know, like it might not be that beneficial in that situation, you know, because like when you freeze an enemy, it still stays there, but you can still pick up the enemy and throw it, and then you can take care of a bunch of enemies all in a row right there. So I really love that they both feel perfectly balanced with what they offer the player, which is why I like them side by side together. Now, the ice flower did technically debut in Mario Galaxy, and it is not really the same in that game. You know, the same can be said about the fire flower, and we'll just be here all day if like we're talking about different variants or something. I kind of just want to talk base level stuff, and I already got Mario Galaxy's other dumbass power-ups on this list. That's another part of Scott's dumbass list right here. I'm not including the Mario Galaxy variants of the fire flower or ice flower. Fucking punch me, do it. All right, I teased everybody at the beginning. Let's talk about this damn ass carrot from Mario Land 2. I like Mario Land 2. I think Mario Land 2 is one of the best Game Boy games, and it is definitely better than Mario Land 1 in every single way. But I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite Mario games. It's one of my favorite Mario novelties. It's a good game, but I do find that, you know, what makes it so special is the fact that it's on Game Boy. You take that out of the equation and you're left with, this is a fun little 2D platformer, but that's all it really is. It's a fun little 2D platformer. And, you know, I find its power-up to be weird as hell. The carrot gives you bunny ears, and you can just glide with them. Now, okay, it isn't like the exact same as other gliding Mario power-ups. For example, like you can kind of just like stay there. Like something like the Super Leaf, if you glide with that, you're constantly descending. You can kind of stay in the air longer with Bunny Mario. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense if you got like a big super jump or something with these? I mean, but rabbits don't fly. Making a controversial statement here, but like, yeah, I don't get this. Maybe there is like some kind of like old folk tale that rabbits flew at some point, but like, yeah, I mean, like there's a bunch of like folk tales that like rabbits come from space and all of that. So like maybe it's like, oh yeah, you're hovering through air, like there's anti-gravity. I'm not 100% sure. If you hold A with this, you'll keep on jumping. But like, yeah, I just like there's not a ton of utility for this that other power-ups haven't covered before. There's no offensive option with this, unlike the Super Leaf where, you know, you can at least like, you know, do a tailspin. Hell, you actually lose options with Bunny Mario because you can't do the spin jump like you can normally in Mario Land 2. So yeah, this is just kind of a weird power-up. I mean, like I always do like having the glide option, but like this power-up just kind of feels like it's checking the box of like, oh yeah, what power-up should we make Mario in this game? What animal should he turn into? Let's make him a rabbit. All right, what can he do? Let's just basically do the Super Leaf again, but give you less options. Okay. For that, I'm giving it C, just because, like, you know, like, I will take it in Mario Land 2, oftentimes, but, yeah, I just, like, yeah, it's just a weird power-up, man. If it came back in the modern day, they would have to do some new stuff with it. Like, it can't just be a direct translation of, like, what it did in Mario Land 2. You would have to do something new with it. With that being said, let's talk about another Mario Land power-up. From Mario Land 1, it's the Super Ball Flower. I like this thing. I honestly would like if it came back. And, like, the only reason why it's there in Mario Land is because, like, you know, the Game Boy wasn't powerful enough to do a fire flower. Like, I guess the physics involved with the bouncing fireball would have been a little too much, which is strange because the Super Ball, that shit ricochets all over the place. I guess it was just easier for the Game Boy to do, but yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty much the same as a fire flower, but it gives you super balls, which bounce all over the place. I like it. You know, they actually brought it back in Mario Maker 2, which I thought was really fun, where, you know, if you would get it in the Super Mario Brothers 1 art style, you know, it would turn you into, like, weird Game Boy-looking Mario, and, you know, you'd have the Super Ball power-up. You know, I do really like it, and, you know, I think it belongs right alongside the other flowers. What can I say, man? Is it a sympathy pick just because Mario Land 1 is just charming and kind of creepy? Sure, why not? But does the spring mushroom deserve that same amount of sympathy? No. Mario Galaxy 1 may be my favorite game of all time, but I'm not the biggest fan of its power-ups. It has a weird slate of power-ups, and the spring mushroom is sort of in mini mushroom territory where it's just like, okay, like, yeah, sure, you have better jumps, but at what cost, man? It deliberately controls bad. It's deliberately supposed to be awkward to control. Yes, you do get a higher jump, so that saves us from F tier. You know, it's very similar to the mini mushroom where it is kind of like, yeah, okay, this is making things a little harder, but, you know, you do have some benefits here. Yeah, it belongs in D tier. You just get a bigger jump. That's it. But you're constantly jumping all around, and it's easy to just fall off a cliff or something. Like, it's just, yeah, it belongs in D. But that brings up the frog suit from Mario 3, which only appeared in Mario 3. And it kind of has a similar thing where, you know, you're jumping all the time with it. And when you're on land, it is kind of annoying to control. Like, the frog suit is a very situational power-up. It's a very iconic one. Like, it's really cool when you go back to Mario 3. It's just like, oh my god, the frog suit. And it makes swimming so much easier in Mario 3. But on land, like, yeah, it isn't. It isn't fun, but I would say the frog suit definitely has more utility than the spring mushroom, so I would actually put the frog suit in C tier. But then, oh man, what about the mega mushroom? This was like my favorite power-up back in the day. Like, the whole concept of this power-up made me feel so powerful, and that's what a power-up's supposed to do, right? Man, f the Mega Mushroom. It's just okay. The Mega Mushroom is like a good marketing power-up, you know? It's something that you show in commercials or trailers, and it just gets everybody's attention, like, oh my god, you're giant and you're destroying everything. Isn't that cool? And when I was a kid, you know, that power-up was so fun. It was just like, oh, when it appeared, it was like the coolest thing ever. I'm destroying the level. Now as an adult, I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of thinking it's just like, oh my god, think about the collateral damage. You're just destroying the level, you know? Like, why am I playing at that point? You know? It's just like, all right, well, I guess this level's over now. I'm not saying I dislike it or anything, but the Mega Mushroom is definitely more style over substance. It's cute when it appears, and there are some times where, like, it makes sense to appear. I think when they brought it into Super Mario 3D World, when it pops up in certain levels, and it doesn't act like other power-ups. Like, that game, you can have a power-up in reserve. I don't think you can have a Mega Mushroom in reserve. Unlike how it works in, like, New Super Mario Brothers on the DS or New Super Mario Brothers 2, where it can be, like, stored. Like, so you can bring it into levels that it might not, you know, appear in. But because of that, when the Mega Mushroom appears in Super Mario 3D World, it's kind of meant to be there as, like, okay, we have this giant slate of stuff for you to just mow down, or like, you know, hey, there's a bunch of enemies here, get a Mega Mushroom and just kill them all. But overall, I would say the Mega Mushroom is more style over substance, and as a kid, it's like the coolest thing ever. As an adult, I'm just like, okay. Oh man, you know, there's kind of a similar thing, the Propeller Mushroom. God, there are so many stupid-ass flying power-ups in Mario. Like, they can never just settle on one. They always have to give it a different design, but so many of them are like the exact same thing. To be fair, the propeller mushroom is not necessarily like, oh, it's the same thing as before, but like it doesn't really do a ton for me. You know, like the whole thing with the propeller mushroom is that you get an immediate like boost up, and then you have a slow descent down, which can be useful. You know, I would be lying if I said like it wasn't a useful power up. But other power-ups do the same thing the propeller mushroom does, and they do them better. I'm gonna put this in C tier, and I'm honestly gonna talk about sort of its like pseudo successor. And I never hear anybody really singing the praises of the Super Acorn, but like, yeah, I think the Super Acorn deserves to be a tier above the propeller mushroom, because the Super Acorn is very similar, but it has more stuff going on. So the Super Acorn turns you into Flying Squirrel Mario. It was at this point I think I realized they were running out of animals. But this gives you a lot of similar things. You know, you get the boost up. Maybe not as powerful, and it is at an angle, but I found it to be pretty comparable. And you similarly have like a slow descent with the Super Acorn, but then you also just have like just an immediate glide with this thing. And the glide is good with the Super Acorn. You don't get an immediate glide with the propeller suit. And in addition, the Super Acorn, you can cling onto walls. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, clinging onto walls with the Super Acorn, I've honestly had a couple of instances where like that's more annoying than I would want it to be. Like I recall a couple of instances in New Mario U where I want to hang onto the wall and I just want to slowly like fall down the wall like I would normally do without the Super Acorn. But no, they just had to be lore accurate pertaining to how flying squirrels can cling onto walls. Damn it. I don't find the Super Acorn to be that exciting, though. You know, I think it belongs in B tier. Because, like, it is sort of like an amalgamation between a Super Leaf and a Propeller Mushroom. But, you know, you don't have any offensive ability with it. You can't attack enemies with this thing. And you don't get as powerful as, like, a Gust Up as you do with the Propeller Mushroom. So, like, I find it to be, like, a pretty balanced power-up overall. And it's just not very exciting. Like, it does things that both of these power-ups do, but a little bit worse, but it combines them both. So I think it's better than the propeller, but it's also like, it's just like, I'm not freaking out over it, you know? Now, I kind of want to make some boring placements here because there are oftentimes in these Mario games versions of power-ups that are better in many ways. So, you know, there is the P Acorn, which is similar to the P Wing, which, you know, we'll rank these right here. The P Acorn is a reward you can get for just completing certain parts of Mario U, which I think makes it good to use. You know, there are a couple power-ups that are like super overpowered in these Mario games that you get when the game realizes you suck ass. The P Acorn is a reward you get. You know, it's a very powerful item, and it only lasts for one level. Like, once you use it, then it just turns into a regular flying squirrel suit. So yeah, I mean, like, it's just better than the Super Acorn, you know, overall, but I think it belongs in A tier. It's just pretty much a Super Acorn where you have infinite boost. You can just keep on going up and you can keep on gliding and all of that. So yeah, I think it belongs in A tier. Now, the Super Leaf in Mario 3 had two variants of it in that game where it was like, oh, this is like the Super Leaf, but better. Firstly, we have the Tanuki suit. So this is different from the Tanuki suit in 3D Land and 3D World. This one is pretty much a variant of the Super Leaf, but you can turn into a statue. S. So turning into a statue, I don't really actually find to be that beneficial. But it's also like, it's an extra ability you have, and the Tanuki suit is fun, and it's really rare, so it's like, it's really exciting when you actually get it. Okay, yeah, S tier, just because it's a Super Leaf, but you have more abilities with it. Okay. It defends you from enemies, you know, a statue Mario, you're invulnerable, you can do whatever you want, so it's just like, yeah, okay, S tier for that. But then we also have the P-Wing in Mario 3, which is basically just the Super Leaf, but you have an infinite amount of flying capabilities. So, yeah, you know, I mean, like, I'll put that in S tier. But there's also a variant of the P-Wing that is in Mario 3D Land. Now, I don't really consider this to be a power-up. The P-Wing in Mario 3D Land appears when you die enough times in a level, but something else appears beforehand, and that is the invincibility leaf. So that's just going into F tier because I feel like a fucking bitch when I use this. not that I use it. This is definitely one of the more controversial power-ups in the Mario series. The invincibility leaf pretty much appears when you die enough times, and you get a Tanuki suit in Mario 3D Land that is completely invincible. So you'd think that would make it the best power-up ever, but I never want to use this thing. I love that all these like hardcore retro gamers are always all up in arms over these power-ups being available. I have no problem with these power-ups being available. In fact, like if you're one of these bad bitch retro gamers, then you shouldn't care about the invincibility leaf being there, because if you're so good at the game, then you'll never see it. You don't have to use it, so it's just like I have no problem with it being there. But similar to the poison mushroom, honestly, I avoid the invincibility leaf like the plague. I never want to use it because it ruins the game for me. So yeah, that's going in F tier for me. And the P-Wing in 3D Land, like if I consider that to be a power-up, it would also go in F tier. But I don't consider it to be a power-up because all it does is it just brings you to the end of the stage. Like, the game is pretty much just giving up on you at that point, because it already offered you the invincibility leaf, and after you die enough times with the invincibility leaf on offer, then it's gonna be like, bro, what are you doing? Here's the P-Wing. Get to the end of the level. What are you doing? So yeah, get out of here with this nonsense. But hey, I mean, like we have the actual Super Leaf from 3D Land, which is different from the Super Leaf in Mario 3. This was such a weird little marketing thing because they pushed this leaf like crazy. Like the first time they announced this game was at like GDC 2011, and they showed a couple of screenshots, but they showed the logo, which was it just said Super Mario, and it had a shadow of the tail. And so it was like a big deal that they were like, oh yeah, like the raccoon suit is back. Like I don't think everybody 100% realized Tanuki Mario specifically was back. It was kind of like, oh yeah, the tail from Mario 3. It was kind of thinking like, oh my god, I'm gonna be able to fly in this game. No, you don't fly in Mario 3D Land. The Tanuki suit in Mario 3D Land, all you can do is glide, and you can use your tail, and that's all it does. I will give the power up this. Like, I always want the Super Leaf in Mario 3D Land. It is my preferred power up in that game. I always want it. I think it works great in that game because gliding in that game is very nice. It's very nice to be able to kind of correct your jumps in that way. However, I just find it strange that they made such a big deal about this power-up coming back, and it's not the same power-up, you know? Like, it's just like, it doesn't do the same things as it did back in that game. Now, 3D Land, I don't think would work with a flying power-up. Like, that game was not designed with a flying power-up in mind. But at that point, like, I'm annoyed at this power-up because it's nostalgia pandering, and it doesn't even do what made that power-up unique to begin with. Also, the fact that they like push that it's Tanuki Mario. He's in the Tanuki suit specifically, and he doesn't turn into the statue. Like, why are they pushing like, oh, Tanuki Mario is back, but it doesn't even retain some of the most famous elements of not only Raccoon Mario and the Super Leaf in general in Mario 3, but Tanuki Mario specifically. Like, they made sure it's Tanuki Mario, but the statue isn't even a part of this power-up. And that's because it was only in the post-game of Mario 3D Land. You get the statue leaf in Mario 3D Land at the end of the game, and the only difference is it's the Super Leaf, but Tanuki Mario has like a little handkerchief, and when you go to do a ground pound, you turn into Statue Mario. So for me personally, 3D Land and 3D World Super Leaf gets a B, and then the Statue Leaf gets an A. I mean, it's just weird to me. I like these power-ups, in their respective games. I do love using them, but their inclusions are very strange to me. Like, why wasn't the Statue Leaf just a part of the game from the beginning? Like, why couldn't you just do that from the beginning? Like, why is that like such a special little thing? And they didn't even bring it back for 3D World. But 3D World had its own shtick going on there because it had the Super Bell, and there's also its own upgraded power-up that was similar to what the Statue Leaf did, which is the Lucky Bell. So the Super Bell, I genuinely think, is one of the best Mario power-ups. There's so much versatility with Cat Mario. You can do so much stuff. You can scratch, so you can break blocks, you can defeat enemies, all of that. You can pounce in the air. So you have like this interesting thing where it's not necessarily a glide, but it kind of does a lot of things like what a glide would do. You can climb up walls, you can climb up the flagpole. This has so much functionality. But I'm gonna give it A just because the Lucky Bell is the Super Bell, but better. And it honestly takes the idea of Statue Mario, but it actually like does something even more beneficial with it. So the Lucky Bell, similar to the Statue Leaf in 3D Land. In 3D World, the Lucky Bell appears in the post game in like the special worlds. So it is a pretty rare power up, but the Lucky Bell, similar to the Statue Leaf, when you do a ground pound in the air, you turn into a statue, but you just spawn like an infinite amount of coins as you come down. So it's just like, yeah, that's really good. Like, that's a really good thing to have. Like, I do appreciate that. Honestly, like, if the Lucky Bell didn't exist, then the Super Bell would also be an S because that's just such a good power-up. Honestly, my go-to in 3D World would be to beat like Cat Mario and then maybe have like the Tanuki suit in reserve, or vice versa, depending on like what power-up I currently have in that game. But yeah, the Lucky Bell is just a Super Bell, but with an extra piece of functionality. So that's our other S tier power-up. But that sort of reminds me of the Golden Flower from New Super Mario Bros. 2. I really like this power-up. Now, the fact that I like this power-up feels a little like a good old source of brain rot right there. Just nothing but dopamine hits, man. Like, it's just like, oh man, I have the Midas touch. I'm turning everything into gold and wiping the entire screen of all enemies and blocks and all of that. Whatever, it's fun. I love the Gold Flower power-up. New Super Mario Bros. 2 is definitely one of the weaker New Super Mario Bros. Games, but I feel like that's mostly based around the missed potential that it has. Like, there's so much you could have done with New Super Mario Bros. 2. I mean, even just basing the name, like, it's Super Mario Bros. 2. You can incorporate elements from, like, you know, Mario 2 USA in there. And then just the fact that, like, oh yeah, the game is based around collecting a bunch of coins. Like, oh, you know, maybe you can base the story of the game around that. Maybe you can base, like, the villain around that. What if the villain was Wario this time or something? No, it's just, it is a very basic New Super Mario Bros. Game with a bunch of coins there for no reason. And I think it would have made a lot of sense if they actually gave coins value in the game. Like, you know, they had like an in-game shop that you can buy things with coins like you do in Mario Odyssey. Hell, I mean, like, even if you could unlock like different pathways in the game with coins, because you just unlock pathways with star coins like you do in like New Super Mario Bros. DS. And I'm just like, why? Like, why can't I, like, let's use the coins for something, guys. But whatever. I mean, collecting coins is just fun, you know, like, whatever. I feel like such a fucking idiot when I'm talking about this game, but I like it. You feel very powerful. Unfortunately, you do lose the gold power-up when you end the level, but, you know, I mean, it makes sense. It is a very special power-up, but I would give it A tier. It's very, very fun. I like it. You know what? I want to talk about two very similar power-ups right now. Boom Mario and Vanish Mario. So Vanish Mario is from Mario 64, and I would say it's probably the least memorable power-up from that game. You know, you have Metal Mario and you have Wing Cap Mario. And Vanish Mario is just not used very much, and you don't necessarily feel very powerful. It's just kind of to get past certain obstacles, you know? Like, it's like, oh, I need to get through that gate. Oh, you know, like, walk through the mirror and stuff. Like there are a couple things you can do with Vanish Mario, but it's like it's not a power up I would actively choose to use if it wasn't required. Also, like, you know, it's harder to see anything. You know, it's harder to see yourself when you're Vanish Mario. So you know, it's so situational. I gotta put it in D. Boom Mario, you're kind of doing the same things. Like, I didn't really think about it, but Boom Mario is kind of just the same idea as the Vanish Cap, because the main thing you can do with Boom Mario is turn, like, invisible and kind of go through, like, you know, like, gates and all of that. It's just cuter. Like, being a Boo is just kind of cool. So it's just like, and like, the thing is, like, the 3D Mario power-ups are definitely different from the 2D ones, so we want to keep that in mind. A lot of the 3D power-ups are very situational, and many of them are actually, like, timed power-ups. Like, they don't last forever. They're just kind of used to bring some variety to the level rather than make you feel so much more powerful. But I would say, like, yeah, Boo Mario does the same stuff Vanish Cap Mario does, but it's just kind of more interesting looking, and, you know, you have more interesting movement. The fact that you do move like a Boo, I'll put it a space above. Like yeah, sure, C. But the other power-ups in Mario 64, I honestly feel like it goes like one step above each. Like, I think the metal cap goes in C. Like the metal cap is solid for what it is, but it's also like you're slow as dirt with that thing. You can barely jump, but I mean, you can walk underwater, and you know, you're invincible and all of that. So it's just like, yeah, you know, like, and I like the theme. I like the theme. It was really cool near the end of Mario Wonder, where one of the wonder effects is you turning into pretty much like Metal Mario, and you know, it plays the Mario 64 metal cap theme. That I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And Mario Wonder doesn't have a ton of power-ups, but I mean, sure, you can count the metal cap, I guess. Appears in one level, and it's just for a wonder effect, but still. B, I think I'll give the wing cap. The wing cap is iconic. The wing cap lets you fly, which, like, a billion power-ups already let you do that. Like, flying is such a big marketing thing with Mario games. Like, oh, you can fly with this power-up. Like, yeah, I can fly with a billion power-ups, whatever. I put it in B just because it's annoying to control. I'm just like, I think the wing cap is annoying to control. I can never get it 100% right. I don't feel like I'm in full control of Mario. And I would honestly say something like the red star in Mario Galaxy 1 is just the definitive flying power-up. Like, it's so good. It works so well. But I'm still going to put it in A because barely any levels use it. It doesn't have a ton of utility. It's kind of just there because it's cool. And it is a timed power-up. You can't use it infinitely. Of course, like, that would be incredibly overpowered if you could. And you can't really bring it to other levels. So I'm just like, it's a pretty pointless power-up. If you could use it in more levels, I think it would belong in S tier because this is the best feeling flying Mario power-up out there. I love how this one feels, but like it's barely fucking utilized. How about the superstar? This one's kind of tricky, man, because you're invincible. Isn't that great? But like, it's almost kind of in like mushroom territory, man, where I'm kind of like, sometimes it can fuck you over. Sometimes like it's not exactly what you want. So like a star, like, more often than not, I want it, but sometimes I'm like, no, I don't really want that right now. You might be invincible, and like at that moment, you might need to like hop on like a Koopa Troopa to get its shell to like hit something or whatever, you know? Like, it might not be exactly what you need in that moment, and there are some times where like I may need to avoid it. So I'm kind of hovering between B and C, honestly, because, you know, like, it's a staple and like it's good overall. It does do more good than it doesn't. But yeah, you know, like, I'll give it B. I'll give it B. You know, like, it's like, oh, it's all powerful, and it doesn't like absolutely just destroy the fucking level like the Mega Mushroom does, and it has like similar attributes to a Mega Mushroom, and I would say it's more useful overall than the Mega Mushroom. The Mega Mushroom just, I mean, like, that's just like, I'm a baby boy and I love to see the world burn, so I love the Mega Mushroom. Ooh, the star is more like, you know, like, more often than not, I want a star, but, you know, it does kind of change the dynamic of the level at that point, too. Getting the star turns the level into, like, a speed run level. Like, it's just like, oh, I just want to start running with this thing. So I think B makes sense for the star. But we've already ranked the Ice Flower, the penguin suit. The penguin suit belongs in A tier because it's practically the same as the Ice Flower, but like, you just have more stuff going on, which is weird because like, they brought in the Ice Flower into New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and then they also introduced the penguin suit. And I'm just like, why are we doing this? Why do we have both of these power-ups in this game? I never understood that. I mean, the Ice Flower is more common than the penguin suit, but it's also like, the penguin suit is just like, why do we have both of these things in the same game? I don't understand, because you can throw ice balls with the penguin suit, in addition to the fact that you pretty much have like the same attributes as the frog suit, where you can swim better with it, and ice isn't slippery when you have the penguin suit. Plus, yeah, when you slide with the penguin suit, you slide faster because you're on your stomach. So yeah, I'd honestly say this is the most powerful suit in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Like, this is the power-up you want. I don't understand. Like, I like the Ice Flower, but like, I'm like, why is this here? Why is this here when you're gonna introduce another power-up that does the exact same things that the Ice Flower does? And where does B Mario go? What a weird-ass power-up they introduced in Mario Galaxy. You know, like, it's very similar to like the power-ups introduced in like Mario Wonder, I think, are strange. Like, the 3 power-ups they introduced, I'm like, why these? It just makes that game's power-up roster feel kind of like odd. Like, I like it, but it's also like, it doesn't feel like very well balanced. It just kind of feels like bunch of random power-ups are in this game. Same with Mario Galaxy, where it's like the big headlining power-up in that game was a fucking bumblebee. And I'm like, we're in space, bro. What are we doing? Why is it Bee Mario in this game? And Bee Mario is just like, again, like, it's just like, even the worst power-ups, I mean, like, I like them because, like, I'm a little baby boy that likes Mario, but it's like Bee Mario is just not very, like, it's just like, why are we doing this? Bee Mario can hover for a bit of time, and since you're very lightweight, you can stand on clouds. Okay. And when you see honeycombs on the wall, you can crawl on them because they're honey and you're a bee and you can crawl on honey. Like, I don't know. Like, what the f is this power-up, man? I think the main thing going for it is that it's cute. I think the power-up item is cute. Like, seeing a mushroom that has, like, a bumblebee pattern. That's interesting. And seeing Mario as a bumblebee. Oh, man. Don't you just want to just grab him by the cheek and just go coochie coochie coo. That's interesting, isn't it? But to be honest, like, this power-up just doesn't do anything for me. Like, look at what else is in B tier. Is this power-up on the same level as a traditional fire flower or on the same level as the super leaf in 3D Land? God, no. This is a C. Like, I'm not gonna pass it up primarily because in Mario Galaxy, when it offers you a power-up, it's more than likely because the level requires you to use it. But yeah, man, like, this power-up is just a strange one. It's just kind of like, what is this doing here? Like, it's just like, yeah, okay, you can do a couple of things with it, but it's just kind of like a worthless feeling power-up, something that is just like, does this really need to be here? You know, speaking of which, let's talk about the Super Crown. The Super Crown is a very unique, odd little duck because this was introduced in the Nintendo Switch port of New Super Mario Bros. U, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and it is only usable by Toadette, who was introduced as a playable character in this game. And like, the only thing you can really say about this thing at the end of the day is that it's a weird power-up. I assume this was kind of birthed out of a bunch of obstacles that came in the way when porting New Mario U to the Switch. They obviously wanted to introduce Peach as a playable character, because definitely at the time, like, I think Nintendo was very much valuing Peach as a playable character option in the Mario games. You know, you saw her in 3D World, and then in Odyssey, you know, they brought her back as like, oh yeah, Bowser kidnapped her. So it's just like, obviously, you know, like, sometimes they'll still do the old trope, but for the most part, I think, you know, they were kind of starting to transition away, and they kind of saw value in having Peach playable because Peach is such a popular character, and it's very nice to be able to have her as an option while playing these Mario games. Problem is, New Mario U, like, Peach is kidnapped in that game, so it's kind of like, okay, well, what are we gonna do with that? You know, they could possibly make like an entirely separate mode where she's playable, kind of like how like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on Switch has the Funky Kong in that, but like only in the funky mode. But the way they decided to do it was like, okay, well, what if we make Toadette one of the playable characters? Because we already have Toads as playable characters, so let's make Toadette the playable character. And then let's make a power-up where Toadette turns into Peach. This is stupid. This is just dumb. Like, this is just so many, like, arbitrary problems created here. Just make one of the characters fucking Daisy. I don't know. Like, why do we have to do this? Why does it have to be, oh, Toadette's now there, and then she turns into Peachette, which is like the Toadette version of Peach. The Super Crown is only accessible by Toadette because the Super Crown is a little overpowered. You know, like when you select your character in New Mario U Deluxe, they specifically label Toadette as one of the easier characters. So, you know, you pick Toadette if you're one of the more inexperienced players. But that's just annoying because that means, like, if you're playing 4-player in this game, no matter what, one of the characters is gonna have like a handicap, and that's kind of annoying. The Super Crown itself, I just don't find to be that interesting because, like, as a power-up, it kind of just does the same things as like the Super Acorn, but it's just like, it just does a couple like easier things. Like, you have a double jump, but that's pretty much kind of the same as like how the Super Acorn has that little midair, like little bump up, and then you can hover, much like the Super Acorn. The only other major difference with the Super Crown is when you go down a pit, it will just automatically like, whoop, no you didn't. I mean, like, overall, like, it's a useful power-up, but it is kind of in that weird invincibility leaf territory where it's like, it's a useful power-up, but it kind of feels like it's there for like easy mode kind of thing. I don't mind that it's there, but it's also kind of like, why not just make an easy mode at that point? like why make this arbitrary thing where like, oh well, if you're having trouble, play as Toadette, and then sometimes you'll get this power up popping up. Not all the time, but sometimes you'll see it pop up, and then you use it, and then it makes things easier. I don't know, man. I just think this power-up annoys me more than anything. I'm putting it in C tier. Like, it's not bad, but I just think it's more confusing than anything. All right, so I got 2 Mario Maker 1 power-ups here, which are a little more obscure. We have, like, the Weird Mushroom, which gives you the properties of, like, Luigi, where, like, you know, Mario, it just gets really lanky, and then the way you jump, it is more similar to Luigi. I guess. B tier, sure. Then we got the Big Mushroom, which was originally in Mario Maker 1 when you'd scan like the 8-bit Mario amiibos, and it would put everything underneath like this old school CRT screen. But pretty much, this is just kind of like a Mega Mushroom sort of, but you know, it's like a Mega Mushroom with more like actual utility. Like you put this in your level if you want to be able to like destroy a bunch of blocks and all of that. So again, it's kind of like the Weird Mushroom where it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, like you can design a level around it and like it's better than not having it, I guess, but it is a little situational, and being only kind of in Mario Maker, I've never seen a ton of people use either of these power-ups in levels shared online. So it's just like, you know, they're there and like they can benefit, but it's kind of like, you know, it's hard to see like the true utility of this power-up. It's just kind of like an extra option for players to mess around with. Kind of similar to Builder Mario, which is only in Mario Maker 2 in the 3D World option, which is definitely more interesting. You know, this is genuinely kind of like an actual Mario power-up in the game. It isn't like how a lot of the other Mario Maker power-ups have been, where you turn into Builder Mario and you can break blocks, you can put down blocks. It's definitely a slower power-up to use because when you actually use the hammer, it is definitely a little more awkward than just like firing off like a fireball or something, you know, but you can definitely do a lot with this. But I would say just because of that, like I would still put it in B tier. You know, like it has more things you can do with it compared to a Fire Flower, but I think a Fire Flower is just still like more mobile, a lot easier to just use and just get an immediate benefit out of it. But the amount of stuff you can still do with the Super Hammer, I think it belongs in B tier. Okay, this one is a very beloved one by many people, and I have said some heinous shit about this one, the blue shell from New Super Mario Brothers. That heinous shit being I didn't really give a shit about it. I find this power-up to be like a speedrunner's dream here. Just the fact that like you have a power-up that is very powerful, but it does make things harder. That's the main thing. Like this is a power-up that does make things more difficult. So we do kind of have, you know, my D tier options here. It's not a D tier though. Like it's just like, yes, it makes things more difficult, but the benefits you get from it is, you know, just being able to like literally mow down constant enemies. But, you know, it is kind of easy to just accidentally ricochet off of a pipe or something. Then you're just flying into the opposite direction. It is definitely a more difficult power-up to use, but it is very beneficial, you know, like it can be very useful. If you use it properly, it can almost be as like dangerous as having like a star throughout the entire level, but you could like play the entire game with the blue shell. Like you can just plow through enemies non-stop with this thing, but it's difficult to do so it doesn't break the game. But I would probably put it in B tier because it does have the major downside of like, yeah, it is trickier to control. It isn't like an immediate like, oh my god, like I have all this power. It's like, well, you have all that power if you can handle it. The double cherry from Mario 3D World. This is definitely one of the most interesting power-ups. And it's kind of hard because like it doesn't really make you more powerful per se, but I think it does give you a ton of benefits, being you can literally like combine it with other power-ups, and then you just have like this infinite supply of like ammunition. Like if you combine it with a Fire Flower, you have all this firepower. And sometimes you can get like up to 5 double cherries, and you can have like 5 versions of like Mario running around. It does give you like a bunch of extra hit points. With that being said, you know, like it is harder to control that many different Marios, and it is very easy to have them all like spread out accidentally, and then you can't really control them as easily. And overall, like sometimes double cherry is more of a nuisance, and it is more of a challenge to keep all of your Marios alive. Like, yes, it can give you like a bunch of ammunition with like a fire flower, but oftentimes the double cherry is only really in levels as kind of like a challenge. Like, hey, get to the end of this section with all 5 of your clones still there. And yeah, it doesn't act like a normal power-up. You can't hold it in reserve or anything. You know, it's only available in the levels that Nintendo wants you to use the double cherry in. So it's definitely kind of a weirder power-up. It doesn't act like a normal one, but damn it, it is kind of cool. I think honestly I'd put it in A. Like, I do really like it. I think it would be really, really cool to see that power-up available in other types of levels. You know, like if it acted like a normal power-up and you could just, you know, bring it to another level and, you know, like have double Marios throughout the whole game or something. You know, I think that would be really, really cool. But unfortunately, it is kind of like a level-based item. Yeah, I like it too much, man. I think it belongs in A tier. You know what else belongs in A tier? The Cloud Flower. This is one of the most amazing power-ups. Mario Galaxy 2. I really want it in a fucking 2D Mario game, damn it. I love that you can also walk on clouds with this thing, so it automatically, like, that was already something B Mario did, and now, you know, Cloud Flower is being like, yeah, fuck you, B Mario. I make sense, bitch. I love the idea that, like, yeah, you can just create your own platforms wherever. Like, you can create up to, like, 3 platforms. It's amazing. It's fantastic, and you have, like, better jumps with this thing. I really, really enjoy the Cloud Flower in Mario Galaxy 2. I think this also belongs in A tier. Okay, the Boomerang Flower. This is kind of a weird one because, like, it's useful, but it's also like it does different things from the Fire Flower. That is a fact. Like, you can actually collect stuff with the Boomerang Flower. You can't collect stuff with the Fire Flower. You can also do something where you throw a boomerang and then you can jump and then it goes, you know, underneath you and everything. You know, it can kind of ricochet off of things, and potentially if you have like a lineup of enemies, you can throw the Boomerang Flower and it's just gonna go right through multiple, compared to the Fire Flower, which only kind of does one at once. God damn, you know, initially I was about to say like, you know, like it's just kind of the Fire Flower again, but you know, like it's just a little different. But the more I talk about it, I think it definitely does have a lot more value. Like, I think it is definitely a little more useful than the Fire Flower in most instances. But, you know, like, it isn't very exciting, you know? Like, I was initially going to put it in B tier, but, you know, thinking about it, I do think it makes a strong argument for A tier. Like, you can do a lot more with it. But, like, man, like, for some reason, I just don't give a damn about this thing. I'm going to put it as a begrudging A, because I do think it does do more than a Fire Flower. So, like, it has to be better. It doesn't really have a ton of downsides to it compared to a Fire Flower. You know, a Fire Flower, you can, like, spam out a couple of fireballs one after another. The Boomerang, you have to kind of wait for it to come back, but, you know, that's kind of like one of its only major downsides. And even then, that's not really much of a downside. You know, it's in Mario 3D Land. That game is simple as hell. Like, how often are you really going to have, like, a billion enemies that you have to shoot out a bunch of fireballs at? Like, no, a Boomerang Flower is always going to be useful in a situation that a Fire Flower is. So, yeah, I think A tier, man. The Rock Mushroom from Mario Galaxy 2, I think that belongs in A tier. Of course, you know, like, I can think of a bunch of different utilities for the Boomerang Flower, just because, like, you know, the 3D Mario games, you know, the ones that aren't 3D Land and 3D World, they definitely use power-ups in a bit of a more situational way. But Rock Mario is genuinely very cool. I think it does the super powerful power-up very well, where you don't feel overpowered, and it makes for a very, you know, unique gameplay experience where I feel like I can take down a lot of enemies in a unique way, but I don't feel like it's ruining the level like the Mega Mushroom does. So the Rock Mushroom, A tier. I do really enjoy the Rock Mushroom. The Drill Mushroom from Mario Wonder. Okay, so I mean, like, this pretty much does the same thing as the drill in Mario Galaxy 2. I also like the Drill Mushroom. I would put this in A tier because I really like that it kind of fleshes out the level. You know, you can go into the ceiling, you can go underground and stuff. And I think it just brings up a lot of interesting gameplay possibilities. But what about the other Mario Wonder power-ups? The Bubble Flower is... I think it's strange that Mario Wonder has the Fire Flower and the Bubble Flower, but not the Ice Flower. But I think the Bubble Flower is genuinely probably the most effective of the 3 major like elemental flowers. I'm putting it in A tier just because, you know, it can take care of enemies much like the other flowers can do, but you also have like platforming you can do with it. You can literally like jump off of the bubbles. The bubbles can go through certain platforms and get enemies that are like, you know, like beyond your own reach. Definitely a little trickier to use just because there's more physics with them being like bubbles compared to like a fire flower. But yeah, you know, I think A tier makes sense. But what about Elephant Mario, Scott? Tell me about Elephant Mario. Oh my god, this one's a weird one. So I like Elephant Mario. I just don't really think it's the best power up in Mario Wonder. I honestly think he's a B, just because like, you know, like it's fine, but like, here's the thing. Elephant Mario has definitely a wider moveset than a lot of other Mario power-ups give you. The problem is, like, most of the time, like, I just don't really find that Elephant Mario is all too useful. I think the fact you can carry water with him is cool. The fact that, you know, you can have that in your trunk and you can spray that, like, that's something. You know, I like the fact that you can use your trunk to, like, you know, flick at enemies and blocks and stuff. I think that's good. But yeah, I mean, like, for the most part, I just find him to be a big fucking guy, and that's kind of it, you know. Like, I just find that most of the time in the game, the bubble flower is the way to go, and the drill mushroom is definitely a little more situational, but like when it hits, it hits. Elephant Mario, I just find to be a strange headlining power-up. It's a very bold look. You know, it's a very bold power-up to have, and I don't dislike it. But I almost find that it's just kind of a strange inclusion because, like, I just don't find it to be the most useful power-up. It's useful, like, it'll help you, but it's also kind of like, you know, like, okay, you know, like, I almost was kind of expecting it to play a bigger role in the game than what it actually ended up doing. So, you know, I like the elephant fruit. I find it interesting that it's a fruit. It's not like the elephant mushroom. It's not like the elephant leaf or anything. No, it's a fucking fruit, okay. But I'm gonna put that in B. You know, right alongside that, I think I'm gonna put the P balloon in B as well. This is a Mario World deal, and it actually appeared in Mario Maker 2 in the Mario World style, but it actually does a different thing there, which is interesting. As it is in Mario World, like, okay. It's just kind of an easier way to get some height, but like, you know, you can already kind of do that with the cape feather. You just, like, the power balloon, you just don't need a running start. But so much stuff in Mario World is already kind of like, you can already kind of do what it does. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's B. I mean, it's useful, but it's also like, who gives a damn? I don't know, you know, and again, it's not like other power-ups where, like, it is situational. It only appears where it appears in the game. Like, you can't bring it to other levels, but yeah, like, it's just, you just keep going up for a bit of time. Okay. The Hammer Brother suit from Mario 3, I would say A tier. You know, like, it is very similar to the Fire Flower, but you get some extra stuff going on with that. And if you crouch, you know, you have the helmet, so you know, you can avoid enemy projectiles that way. But I mean, the hammers are pretty much just stronger fireballs, and you know, they definitely balance it out because the Hammer Brother suit is very rare in Mario 3, so that makes sense. But yeah, we're down to the last one. What the It's the wing. It was in Super Mario Bros. Special, which was the Japanese-only PC port of Mario 1. So you get it, and then you can fly through the air, which is literally just the swimming animation. I know what I'm about.